Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the Sage's Dojo. This is your host, Sage Armageddon. We're in here getting a good workout here, learning a little bit of martial arts with Chun Li again. In this particular session, what I wanted to go ahead and discuss is something involving anti-airs with Chun Li. Now, a lot of the times when it comes to other characters, let's say like your Ryus and your Kins and things of that nature, um, a lot of the times what you want to do to anti-air people is even though Ryu has something like this for when the opponent jumps, let's go ahead and set the dummy to jump forward. Let's see. So it'd probably be easier to do it this way. All right. You could just hit them out of the air. But generally speaking, with characters like this, you know, what people will tell you to do is what you want to do is when your opponent jumps, you want to use your dedicated anti-air. The reasons why you want to do this is A, it's more damage. For most characters, it allows for better Oki. Because it knocks them down, does more damage, and it's invincible to jumping attacks. So if the bot decides that they want to do something like that, they're going to get hit out of it, right? You don't have to worry about crazy stuff happening like this, where you might get clipped. See? If you do a Shoryuken, it's going to beat that crap every single time, no matter how close they get, right? So it's invincible to anti-airs. That's one of the main reasons why you want to use your dedicated Shoryuken. And, you know, using Chun-Li, people will tell you, oh, use Tensho kicks to anti-air. But the thing is that Capcom kind of did Chun-Li pretty dirty in this game, and I'll explain that in a moment. Her input for her Tensho kicks is not the best. Other characters, even though this is the input for the Shoryuken, which is, you know, forward, down, down, forward, you can shortcut this with other characters. Like if you're blocking with Ryu and Chun-Li decides to jump, I can just shortcut this input. It's pretty simple to just get this thing out. While I'm doing literally anything else, I can just kind of get a Shoryuken out with no problem, right? Alright. See, it's pretty easy to get it out with somebody like Ryu or Ken. Now the problem with Chun-Li is she doesn't have a shortcut. For Tensho kicks, to get this move, you double tap down and you push a kick button, light, medium, or heavy, depending on how much damage you want or how far you want the move to go and how high you want the move to rise, correct? So, and it's not even just quick double tap down. You have to press down, return to neutral, and then push down again. So if I just keep crouching and I'm just mashing down, I'm not getting anything. Right. And even right now, I'm doing down back. As you can see by my inputs, I'm trying to buffer it. How about down forward? Nothing. I'm not getting anything. You have to specifically be pushing down and only down, which means that if your opponent decides that they want to jump, if you're doing anything else, it can make it difficult to actually anti-air them. Now, suddenly I am trained and the bot is jumping, so I know that they're jumping, but it's still hard to do. So you see how with Ryu I was able to get it at literally the exact last second. This is almost completely impossible with Chun-Li. If you're blocking and your opponent jumps and they get that close to the ground, you don't have enough time to really put the input in. They're too close. Right? Even when you do the 5-frame startup, it's very effing hard to do this crap. If you don't have a hitbox controller, some way to tap down twice very quickly. So you have to catch them the moment they jump. Keep in mind, this is Chun-Li. Chun-Li has an easy, she's easier to anti-air because her jump arc is higher. But if we get somebody like Ryu, who doesn't have a very high jump arc, when they get that close, that's pretty much curtains. It's very hard to when you're holding charge, you're trying to watch for random drive rushes and stuff, and people skipping neutral. It's very hard to catch a random jump in for most of the cast with Tensho kicks. It's pretty hard. Right. Listen, I know this character is jumping, so I'm able to do it, but it is difficult. A lot of the times you'll try to do it quickly, and you'll get a low kick or something like this by accident, right? And you know it's harder. So what they did to her is kind of dirty, I would say. So Tensho kicks is very hard to use, and it's something that you'll see with Chun-Li players. They don't anti-air because it's so effing hard to do. And the whole thing with Chun-Li is she wants to control the neutral. She wants to be in control of this space. And in order to make your opponent play neutral, you have to force them to do it. If they can just keep jumping all day long and making you guess because they jumped on you, they don't have to play neutral. So all of Chun-Li's exceptional tools for controlling the neutral game are useless because they can just keep jumping. They don't have to play neutral because you're not anti-air. So I wanted to make this video to discuss ways that we can strategize with Chun-Li to try to make the best use of her tool, given the difficulty of the Tensho kick input, right? So Chun-Li has 3 anti-airs. She has the standing medium kick. She has obviously the Tensho kicks, both light, medium, and heavy. And then she has the standing heavy kick. You can do this while completely in neutral or while holding back. You don't want to press forward in heavy kick because you will get this. So it's better to use this one when you're actually moving away from the opponent or standing still. Now, how I'm going to categorize anti-airing is sometimes your opponent just randomly decides that they want to jump, right? They'll just randomly jump in, and like we discussed before, it can be very hard when you're blocking, waiting for a drive rush or something like that to check it, and then your opponent decides to jump. Like I said, I have my opponent's rhythm, so it's making it easier to actually do this. But if they truly caught me by surprise, I'm most likely gonna eat getting hit. Like, oh no, they jumped. Like it's extremely difficult to anti-air with this. If you play Chun-Li, you know what I'm talking about. So something that you want to do is, this character is very stressful to use. You're managing charge. You have to watch neutral. You have to check them from drive rushing at you. You have to check them from doing neutral skips, and not get hit by random stuff like teleport jump-ins from Kimberly or Cammy doing spin knuckles and crap like that. You have a lot to worry about. The last thing you need to be worried about with your mental stack is trying to anti-air somebody with an inefficient input. So what you want to do in order to help relax that is what I call the reactionary anti-air, which is where you're doing other things and you see a jump. That's what the standing medium kick is going to be for. I call it the reactionary anti-air because it's not as good as a crouching heavy punch, because with the crouching heavy punch, of course, you can still block low. With Chun-Li, you have to stand in order to do this, but it's still better than Tensho kicks on reaction, and you can run Oki on it. Like if your opponent is jumping, you can do something like this. Right. So now they have to deal with that unless they mash a super or an OD reversal. They pretty much have to. They can't just press a button through that. Let's go ahead and test it. We're gonna go ahead and make Ryu on block. We're gonna make him do a light jab. So we're charging, our opponent jumps. Whoops. See, the opponent gets counter hit. Now, it depends on how much it spaces. They technically can trade with you, but more often than not, if you do this sequence correctly, then they will have to respect your pressure after this, right? You could also just, I'm pretty sure you can just also do a raw drive rush in order to cross them up. Whoops. Alright. Now the downside to this is, as you can see, it does trade with normals, so you will have to get very used to using it at the right time and spacing. But it's gonna, I think the reward is a lot more worth it, because it's a lot harder to use Tensho kicks when you're blocking low than to just do something. Right. So you want to get used to doing, I would say you want to get used to doing this on reaction, and then making sure that you can follow up whenever you actually hit the opponent with this to get the maximum out of the anti-air. Now, so you can't beat everything with this, but it's really hard to for your opponent to be able to press through that after they just ended up blocking with a Koken. So this is the reactionary anti-air. This is what you want to use when your opponent does a surprise jump. Now, because of Tensho Kick's input, you have to release block. If you ever see me play, or other Chun-Li players play, the reason why you'll see them get hit by random low forwards in medium, by random low medium hits in neutral, is because they're waiting for an anti-air. Right? They might be doing something like this, and then they get flipped because they're waiting. They're not blocking because they expect the opponent to. So anybody can just randomly just kind of throw this out when you're waiting for them to jump, and then next thing you know, you're being put in a blender. So one of the things I devised for it is, this is the type of anti-air that we want to use for when we know our opponent is going to, either they're very predictable with their jump-ins, or we're controlling the situation to force them to where they have to jump in order to try to answer the situation. So let's say, for example, if we throw a Koken. Now, not every player is going to do this. Smart players are just, when they see the Koken, they're just going to back up because it disappears at a certain range. Right? However, you might get some people that they might decide that they want to try to challenge it, and they might, when you throw the Koken, they'll jump. Right. That's a situation where we use Tensho kicks, because we know that they cannot. We can let go of block, because if we're throwing a fireball, the opponent cannot walk up and do this unless they want to eat the fireball, right? So you don't have to block in this situation. If your opponent decides that they want to answer with a drive impact, you can just do that. If they decide that they want to try to do something random like an EXDP or something like that, they're either going to eat it. I'm pretty sure they're just going to eat it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're just going to eat. They're going to eat the fireball no matter what. Yeah. So that's not even an option. Some supers can go through it, so you have to watch out for Cammy or Manon. They can go through fireballs with their super in order to catch you lacking. That's more of a matchup thing. We're not going to go too much into detail with this, but generally speaking, if your opponent is walking up to you and you're throwing the Kokens, you can't get hit with medium kick because they're gonna eat the fireball. So you can actually let go of block and wait for them to jump, right? And which if they decide that they want to jump, then you can anti-air. Now sometimes they might jump right as you throw it, and you'll get caught and take a ton of damage for it. But sometimes that just happens. But if we're not going to go into zoning too much here, but if you throw it and your opponent decides that they jump and they jump too late, much easier to do it that. It matches up perfectly with the input because you no longer have to shortcut it. This is a situation where they can't actually hit you with anything that you need to worry about blocking. So that's the type of situation where you can use pincho kicks. That's where I would call it more of an anticipatory anti-air. Because in this situation, they're either going to eat the fireball, they're going to block the fireball, they're going to parry the fireball, or they're going to jump over the fireball. They can use drive impact, but as you can see, like if you time it correctly, if your opponent is not able to jump over to hit you with that, then they can't drive impact you. It's basically it. So both of those things are checked. Now, if they do jump right as you throw the fireball, then you will eat a drive impact or a jumper. It's going to happen sometimes. Don't worry about it too much. But generally speaking, if they don't clear it in time, if they jump too late, you can just do that. And if they do a drive impact too late, then you can just, like you saw earlier, you can just use your own drive impact to punish them. So 9 times out of 10, they have to block, parry, or jump, or get hit by the fireball. All of those things means that you can let go of blocking. So the horrendous input for this that you can't shortcut out, you can just let go of block after you kill the Kapoka. And just kind of, if you expect them to jump, you don't have to crouch block anymore. You just do the tensho kicks, right? It makes it so much easier when you approach it with that method of thinking. And last but not least, we have the standing heavy kick. I call this the enforcing anti-air. If you know how to use this, it is the only thing that somebody would have to fear from Chun-Li. Now, it's tricky, because if you just try to catch random jump-ins, it's not going to work. You have to space it correctly, because if you do it too close, it's going to whiff. And obviously, if you do it too far, they're not going to get hit. And, it's sometimes, like, on reaction, it is very difficult to catch somebody doing this randomly on reaction because it takes 14 frames to come out. It's pretty slow. So this is something that you want to do to deter jumping. If your opponent is hyper predictable and you are very bold, you can technically catch them jumping with this and get 2,500 damage off of an anti-air, which is pretty freaking good. That's much better than even the heavy tensho kicks. Like, you're getting a lot of damage off of an anti-air. A lot of mileage off of that. So it's going to make people not want to jump because they can take a metric ton of damage. Now, how you want to enforce this is kind of the same thing as the tensho kicks. If you're playing defensively and you're trying to zone your opponent and they jump, it's just like with the previous example, they either eat at this range, which is where this move is at its best. Your opponent is either drive impact won't work. They have to jump. Right. They can block it, eat the fireball, parry the fireball, or jump. Those are their options. And only one of those options is a threat to you at this range. So if you throw a Kakoken at this range, just wait, just look for the jump. Like, just don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about drive rush. Don't worry about, unless you're fighting Cammy or something, don't worry about a random super. Only specific matchups do you need to worry about being hit through this fireball. Very specific matchups, but 95+% of your matchups, you're not going to have to worry about that at all, right? So at this range, if you throw a fireball, just wait for them to jump. If they decide not to jump, you can of course drive rush or something like that. But if you're looking for, if you really want to catch them with this anti-air to really punish them for jumping a lot, just throw the Kokoken. Make sure you space and time it correctly. You don't want your opponent to catch onto your rhythm and just jump over it and hit you, right? So, why am I dropping this? There we go. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with that. I've been dropping a lot of stuff today for some reason. But we'll take a look at the damage. That's about 52% of their HP. It's off of an anti-air cash-out combo. Right. Now you have to time this very well. It's going to take some practice to do. It's very hard to do. And you, like as I say, you have to be bold because there's a very good chance that you'll just get hit out of it and either throw a freak ton of damage for it. However, it's very rewarding if you can pull it off without messing it up or without getting hit out of it, as it does a metric ton of damage, especially if you cash out with it. You don't have to cash out with it. Like I said, you can just do something like this and then run Oki off of that, and that's good enough as it is, right? But this type of stuff will keep them from wanting to jump because that's a lot of damage for an anti-air. That's like getting hit by 2 anti-airs and then some, right? So that's what we want to try to use to really deter our opponent from wanting to jump randomly. It goes in tandem with Tensho kicks. It depends on the range. Obviously, if they're this close, you use Tensho. You throw a fireball, they jump too close, you use Tensho. You throw a fireball, they jump from far away, you can try to catch them or something like this. Right? So those are your 3 anti-airs. You have the standing medium kick, you have the Tensho kicks, and then you have the standing heavy kick. You have the reactionary anti-air. You have the anticipatory anti-air. And then you have the enforcing anti-air. This is when you really want to show, like, hey, buddy, you're not going to jump on me, okay? This will keep them from wanting to jump. If they want to keep jumping, then you can just kill them with that. That's perfectly fine. But it's going to keep people grounded so that you can actually do what you want to do with Chun-Li, which is control the neutral, right? That's the whole goal of this character. And it's a lot easier to do if you can keep them out of the air. This isn't the best anti-air, quote-unquote, but you want to take stress off of using this character. There are a lot of things on that your mental stack is going to be preoccupied with while using her. The last thing that you want to do is worry about random jump-ins, which is what a lot of Chun-Li players, including myself, do when trying to use Tensho Kick. Because if they just randomly just jump in by surprise and you try to shortcut it out, it is not going to work. You have to stop doing everything that you're doing, which is detrimental because you can easily get clipped by something stupid while you're worrying about them jumping. Which is whereas with the standing medium kick, as we saw, you could be doing other things, waiting for a drive rush, and then your opponent just randomly jumps, and you say, "Oh no, buddy, you're not going to jump on me today." So, right now, it does trade because her hurt box is way out there, but if you time it correctly, you can keep them out of the air. Right? Now, like I said, you might trade, but they can't do anything if you trade. So you might take a little bit more damage, but you're still maintaining the neutral, which is the whole point of keeping them out of the air. You either want to maintain this space between you and your opponent, or you want to have them in this type of a situation. One of those 2 things. You don't want them to be jumping on you and hitting you. You don't want to be this close and minus in your face. You don't want them to be just pressing buttons in your face when you don't have any drive meter, right? So Chun-Li is at home in this space. Try to get familiar with using all 3 of these anti-airs. There's a reason why she has all 3 of them. And like I said, a lot of the quote-unquote flaws with Tensho kicks are corrected when you use it with this method of thinking, because you no longer have to worry about it. If they jump, Tensho kicks, and then run your guessing game on the knockdown, right? So that's pretty much going to be it for this video. If anybody has any questions regarding anything that I went over in this one, or if you have any concerns about anti-airing or how to train anti-airing, feel free to leave a comment in the video. Or for those that requested this video, you can leave a comment in the thread that we are discussing these topics in. Also, if you have any methods of thinking or if you any knowledge that will help players take their anti-airing with Chun-Li to the next level, feel free to share that as well. Thank you again for tuning in and getting a little bit of practice in the Sage's Dojo. This is going to be Sage Armageddon. Stay strong and fight hard. See you next time.